There were two lines that made me wonder how powerful he is and what his role is.
He is not the puppeteer. He's just a monster in this maze of monsters.
He seems to me a little bit more like a Joker type figure, an agent of chaos. Today, Mark and I are talking about the thrilling horror mystery from Season 4, Episode 8, Heavy as the Head, so spoilers are ahead.
We are diving into theories about the Man in Yellow and his role in Frumville,
Fatima and bodily autonomy,
and we dive into Henry's visions and what the implications might mean for them.
Quick shout out to our channel members. Thank you so much for your support so we can continue making these videos.
All right, let's get into the episode.
It's interesting because I think that this episode kind of confirmed a lot of people's theories, or at least pointed towards, a lot of what people thought was going on possibly is going on. I think the whole Ethan being the next victor was something that a lot of people have theorized about, and the fact that everything is going to happen again is something that people have kind of theorized about. And now that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what's going to happen, but it's interesting that we're finally getting some of these things that people have been thinking about for quite some time.
Yeah, and I think that also with what we heard from the Man in Yellow as he talked to Tabitha at the end, it feels so hopeful, everything that is going on with Jade and Tabitha and what they can do, but yet he still feels like he's very in control, and that that destiny for Ethan being the next victor, the Man in Yellow feels so confident that it's this is on the right track. Even though they might be close to getting out, I think he likes that a little bit, and he thrives on that because he's going to basically do what he did before.
It's interesting you say he still feels in control. There were two lines that stuck out to me that made me wonder whether or not we've been wrong about how powerful he is and what his role is in all this, the Man in Yellow. And I could still see it being the way that, many of us think that he's kind of the ultimate thing pulling the strings. But there were two interesting things that just kind of made me wonder.
Okay.
The first one was the fact when Sophia met with Boyd, not met with Boyd, but she asked him about how the stabbing went, how the totems went. And maybe that's just because she's, playing her role of she wasn't there, so she wouldn't know. And she was just kind of asking, and that's what she thought a Sophia would do. But there was also part of me that was wondering, did she not actually know? She wanted to ask in the previous episode, she asked him what he was doing, and she kind of seemed genuinely interested. And so,
well, and she also seemed genuinely concerned. It seemed like every time that Boyd was talking about stabbing the creatures with the totems, she was her eyes get wide, and it was for the audience, so it did make it feel like she was worried.
So I couldn't tell if she was just playing the role of Sophia, this scared young kid that is asking the kind of questions that scared young kids might ask. Or what if this had never happened before and she genuinely doesn't know? Would the totems kill the monsters? And if they do kill the monsters, could the totems kill her / him, the Man in Yellow?
Right.
And so did she have a legitimate vested interest in the outcome of this? Because if the totems don't kill the monsters, then the totems are less likely to kill Sophia / the Man in Yellow.
That does make sense, and I do like that. And I'm curious because if that is all true, then I would assume that potentially the Man in Yellow is not the one that made the bargain with the people that what they did with the children, because if he truly did not know if it could kill them or not, then that would mean that he probably didn't set it up, like, or set up the ritual of how
Right.
they. So then, who did set up that ritual? Who gave them that? Is there an entity, or is it just something that they all came together collectively and did?
So there's another part of this that kind of had me down that same rabbit hole, and that's when the man in yellow is talking to Tabitha,
Yes. Okay.
and he says something that you can read it one of two ways. So I
Sure.
could see if he's pulling the strings, I could see it going one way. If he's not pulling the strings, I could see it reading a completely different way, because it's a little bit ambiguous. And that's when he tells her they've never done this before and they could either save the children and even like save the Ankui children and save their own kids, or they could unleash something even worse.
Yeah.
And if he's pulling all the strings, then he could just be trying to put abject terror in her,
Mm-hmm.
and saying, like, you don't know what the outcome is. And so, do you really want to mess around with this? Because every time you push, this place pushes back and it's even worse,
Right.
And so, is he just messing with her and he knows the answer? Or does he legitimately not know the answer? And he's saying, I could see it going one of two ways because I've never seen it and I legitimately don't know because I didn't
Yeah.
set this up.
Right.
And as I was going down that kind of rabbit hole, I was also thinking that another one of the reasons why I don't think that he's necessarily the one on top is because he he seems to me a little bit more like a Joker type figure.
Mm.
He's much more of like an agent of chaos. He seems to be enjoying watching things just kind of devolve. And he even seems like, I wonder whether or not he's the type of like chaotic masochist that when he pushed himself into the pool, so that he could like break his arm
Sure.
to prove to Sarah that she needed to listen to, the voice. I wonder if that legitimately hurt him slash Sophia, and like that legitimately hurt to do, but that's the type of like crazy thing that a chaotic, Joker type figure would do that just enjoys chaos. Like they'll hurt themselves, to kind of get that chaos. And if that is the type of person that he is, that doesn't seem like the type that's like a mastermind that sets up rules, that
Mm.
like set everything up into motion. That seems like the type that would try and see if they can break the rules to make things a little bit more
More
fun,
interesting.
spicier.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about him.
The way that you describe this really made me think of, in Greek mythology, the labyrinth. Like, the frumbill is the labyrinth. The minotaur, or the man in yellow, is the one that patrols inside the labyrinth. But he didn't
Yeah.
build the minotaur. Didn't build the labyrinth.
Right.
Daedalus built the labyrinth. So
Yes.
I could really see that he could just be an agent of chaos, and also because if you think about when we saw Fatima have her baby,
Mm-hmm.
he was not present. He's not mentioned it. He hasn't talked about it. He hasn't seemed to
Yeah.
been making that a thing. We've seen others like Sarah and Elgin have these visions. Also, the three of like Marielle, Randall, Julie, who have these visions of like Locust. We've seen these things that were not necessarily brought upon by the man in yellow, because now we've seen him starting to, like, the things that he is doing, that he's like pushing for, like with the bringing Randall back to life, and
Yeah.
potentially
Bringing Roger back to life.
or sorry, Roger, not Randall. Yes, bringing Roger back to life. Thank you. Having Henry have these delusions where he's going to have to forcibly disconnect from, and I could very much see that he is not the puppeteer. He's just part of. He's just a monster in this maze of monsters that is just something you have to deal with. Because like I feel like the visions that like Elgin and Sarah originally had, or so when Sarah before recently in being in contact with the Man in Yellow, those visions didn't seem to come from an entity that just came from like Fromville, where like the ones that Henry is having now directly come from the Man in Yellow. And then I'm wondering with that, it does seem like we finally got a bit of an answer about the Thomas phone calls. Okay. That does feel like the Man in Yellow. And we saw that with Jim. And and supposedly the Man in Yellow was also the one that said, your wife shouldn't be digging that hole, Jim. And so there, even though he could be a chaos, and that could be part of it. Like the voice of Thomas could be part of that chaos, and like reaching out through the radio could be part of that chaos.
Right.
But I don't know if I believe he's like the main force.
Yeah. So that's, and he also said the line when he was talking to Tabitha, something like, we've been playing this game either many times or for a long time.
Yeah.
And, you know, to me, if he was the one pulling the strings, it would be like, I've been playing with you guys, you know?
Right.
As like my puppets, my toys.
Right.
But instead he made it seem like they were equals in this game to a certain extent. You know, maybe like it seems like the people that get brought to Fromville, they seem like they're at a serious disadvantage, but they do have numbers. They do have, you know, the two main people keep getting reincarnated, and it does seem like they eventually learn what they did. So they do get to kind of like learn from their mistakes, even though it is a slow, painful process. So it does seem like they do have, you know, these asymmetric powers. And while the power that the monsters have does seem a little OP, the fact that every time maybe the people, the protagonists, are getting just a little bit further does make it seem like they do have a power. It's just kind of a crappy one to have to go through that pain and like death over and over again. You know, but like they do have something that does make it where it does make it a match that the Man in Yellow can enjoy. You know, like he seems to seriously enjoy playing this game. And so that was kind of what I was thinking about that.
He also says, you're my best friends. You and Jade are my best friends. And I think that also could lend credence to that he views them as a best friend, because it's like without him, like without them, he has no purpose. He can't do what he wants to do. Like he doesn't get the people drawn into Fromville, and so he doesn't get to do the massacre, eat the people. And so when I think he truly loves like playing this game and seeing how close they can get and seeing what they can do, what they come up with. And this time, I think he's even more excited because this is a new version of the game. Like he's always been one step ahead or two steps ahead, and they're as Tabitha and Jade, and they've always like behind. But now they're getting further and further, and so now he's like, "You are my best friend. Like we get to play this game together. This is fun for me. Like it sucks for you, but like I'm enjoying this. This is the greatest."
I almost wonder whether or not he was one of the original people there with the OG Tabitha and Jade, you know, but before the sacrifices, and whether or not like there were kind of three of them for some reason instead of just kind of Jade and Tabitha that kind of keep getting reincarnated, and that for whatever reason, the man in yellow just took a very different route. And,
Mhm.
instead of trying to beat this place and like relive the horrors over and over again, he was like, he figured out some way to tap into some level of the power and was like, what if I can be a part of this place and I can take part, instead of having to be scared for my life, I can be one of the ones that enjoys taking part in this.
Yeah.
And so, I wonder if there's like something like that, because he did say, he said, you know who I am? Oh, you haven't remembered that part yet. So
Yes.
it really makes it seem like not just that they've seen him before doing horrible things, but
Mhm.
like they legitimately knew each other. That there was a bigger connection.
Yeah. You know what would be really tragic that I just came up with?
What's that?
Okay, so also in this episode that we saw Fatima, who has
Yeah.
these things on her,
Yeah.
and her concern is that she becomes one of the monsters. And when she thinks about it, it's one of the monsters that are in the tunnels that come out at night. That's, I feel like, what she was assuming. But
Yeah.
like, we know that she's cold.
Right.
And if you look at the man in yellow, he's also got like, he looks really veiny. Like all these veins are coming out of him.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
and the man in yellow, if he has this power, he could potentially story walk and go through different eras. And so what if Fatima eventually becomes the man in yellow? Because she, like the way that Christy explains it is that she shouldn't, like her pulse is like almost dead. And
Yeah.
the man in yellow gives this like I'm dead vibe, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't think that Fatima
She seems
will.
too good for that. I like,
I
and
know.
we don't see
But that's
her.
why it would be so tragic.
It would be very tragic.
Yeah.
That would be a big change. And so I'd need like, she would either need to be controlled, kind of like Roger was when he came back to life,
Mm-hmm.
or we would need to see a bunch of things happen that help us to understand how she could go from this to that,
Correct.
Because that's like the polar opposite of what she is right now. And like, I think she's going on a very interesting journey right now,
Mm-hmm.
I think she realizes that she might be going towards something bad and that she doesn't want that. And while like Ellis is very concerned about her and obviously wants to try to help her and make sure that she lives, she knows a lot is out of her control. And she wants to do everything that she can in her control, so that she can do something that is hers. And so even if it, eventually leads to something terrible, she will have taken back some level of control and she won't just be sidelined in her own story. And it's interesting because it's kind of it's an interesting story about kind of like body autonomy and kind of like an abstracted feminist argument, because it is kind of removing the element of like, if it is, what does choice of your body mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's not arguing, is she giving up a life in order to have control of her body? It's kind of like abstracting that. And I think it's a really interesting storyline and it hurts.
Yeah.
But I like that she's like, I know that things aren't great, but I just want to have a say in what happens to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I could also see it going another way where potentially the way Marielle describes what could be happening to Fatima could be something good, right? And
Yeah.
maybe Fatima becomes similar to the man in yellow or gains the powers of the man in yellow, but doesn't lose her compassion and goodness and is able to combat him better because it would be the first thing that could stand up to him being on his level. So I could see that because Fatima is such a altruistic, good person, that she could become a monster, but a good
Hmm.
monster that is helping the people of Fromville and like maybe breaks them out of it.
And if she does become a monster, I think it will be hard for people to accept it. Like that, there's always going to be that fear of, okay, well, if she has physically turned, it's only a matter of time until she mentally turns. Like
Mm-hmm.
that would be the next step. And so I think that choosing somebody as optimistic and positive as she was to do this to is one of the biggest FUs that Fromville can be doing to the people there, because it's taking this symbol of hope. And even if she personally says, I'm not going to let this break me and I'm always going to do the right thing, it is going to break the symbol for the people,
Yeah.
because how do you look at a monster as a symbol?
Yeah. Yeah. That's, yeah. I unless, because we also know that the golem is most likely going to come into play. Like, there's no way that she just spent a couple episodes building this golem to not
Yeah.
have a payoff for it. So
Right.
I don't know if she's going to be able to pilot it, because we saw her be able to pilot something that wasn't her.
Right.
If people might see the golem as a monster, but if they see it as a monster and it's defending them, then perfect. Though I could see
Right.
that they like with Boyd wanting this plan of sending people down there, and it does seem he has like a come to Jesus moment with Father Kotri, where he talks about like, oh, no plan is ever going to be good enough for you. You're always going
Right.
to be upset. I could see that the way that Boyd would be satisfied about risking this mission is sending the golem down there, because if the golem dies, it's just mud, right? Like, you could send that down there, reconnaissance, see if we could get the tree out, see if we could get the bones
Mm.
out. And so I could see potentially the golem being used as a tool in that way.
I feel like if the golem is anything like what they are, in kind of folklore, that it is more of a protective thing than something that you could necessarily pilot and send around. You know,
Mm,
so I don't know if it could be something that could do the tunnels for them. I think they very much are going to have to do the
the
tunnels,
tunnels.
and they're going to have to accept some level of risk,
Yeah.
and it probably isn't. I think, like they're saying, not everybody's going to make it. I think they've
Yeah.
kind of set that up, and I think that's the unfortunate outcome. They could get something good out of it. Like
The trade off,
that's the trade off.
they're going to
Is
push, but it's going to get pushed back hard. Yeah.
yeah.
But then I could also see the golem going with the people that go down there, right? If it's a protector, it could be just like a bodyguard. Like, they might have to still do the necessary things to get the bones out, but the golem could
Yes.
be there to guard them while they go in the
I
tunnels.
I could definitely see that. If yes, that it could go along with them and defend them. I don't think I could see it being like remote operated and go in lieu of them.
Right.
Um, and so I think that if that's the case, it goes with them and it defends. I think that you could have one of those situations where there's like the roller coaster of emotions where it starts to work, and you get that, like, yeah, it is defending them. And then they figure out a way to start destroying it or get around it. And then there's that, oh no, it could only do so much.
Yeah, I could also see if it goes down, like say like like with the roller coaster of emotions, that they go down and people start dying. Sarah dies. We theorize that that might happen, or others that go down we know
I
are
could see
going to die.
Acosta.
Yeah, Acosta, and then the golem
Yeah.
gets down there and starts defending the remaining people, the Jades,
Ah,
the Boyd.
the other direction of the roller coaster where it's like
Yeah,
it
it
gets bad
starts really
first, and then
bad.
there's
The Golem is the saving grace in that moment. So I
Okay.
could see that with the Golem, but I'm not. Yeah, I just don't know.
Yeah. Speaking of a roller coaster of emotions, the Henry stuff is really,
Mm,
really tugging at my heartstrings, and I'm worried about the direction that is going. Because it seems like it is paralleling Abby's storyline, and
yes.
um, I want him to realize that it's wrong. You can see he's torn on the realities, because he did say at the grave, like, the other one makes more sense or something like that.
Right. Like it the reality he's living in Fromville feels real, but then the other one makes more sense. But also the other one has just things that seem like they're very. If I had to choose between Fromville and this other reality where I see Victor was not destroyed in life, there's a grandson, there's an extra
Yep.
person to love and care for. Like, why wouldn't you want to take that? Like, that seems like such a obvious choice of which route to go. And so, I don't know what he's going to do. But it does make it clear that if he wants to join this new reality, he has to forcibly remove himself. And I'm afraid that means that he's going to kill Victor.
I was going to say, it's not forcibly remove himself. It was like forcibly disconnect.
Yes, forcibly disconnect.
You have to eliminate the anchor, and 1,000% Victor is the anchor. So they're definitely setting up that it'll at least get close to that moment.
Yeah.
Whether or not he can realize that he is being manipulated, and that would be a huge gut punch if similar to like when Sarah killed her own brother. But in this case, this is somebody that we weren't like super connected to Sarah's brother, because that was super early in the show. We didn't get a lot of time with him. And this is one that would be a serious gut punch, because we're super connected with Victor. We've had him since the very beginning. And even though we haven't had Henry the whole time, the time that we have had him has been big and emotional. So
Yeah. Henry's been a very powerful part of the story, regardless of the longevity of how long he's been in the show, because he also has the connection to Victor, like you were saying, that we've had for 4 seasons. And so that connection with Henry and Victor versus Sarah and her brother, which was barely a season of time to get to know them. This has been building for 4 seasons. We had a cathartic reunion for Victor with his dad. They moved in together. And so whatever they're setting up of how the cards are going to lay in, it's going to be hard. And I could see, because like a couple things. If he doesn't do it, like he doesn't kill Victor, stays in Fromville, like he can't connect to that side anymore, would he still get more visions that would be like enticing him to and be like, hey, you got to do this, like how would those visions stop without him actually doing the forcibly disconnected thing? And if he does do it, it could make sense, because how does a man like Victor, who has spent his whole life in Fromville, if they do get out, how does he reintegrate into society? Like, these could all be really difficult things to like answer in this moment. But if he were to kill Victor, then I could see that's how they like wrap that up. Like, Victor's not coming back.
I could see the vision stopping if Henry realizes that they are fake, and so he chooses not to believe in that reality any longer. I don't think there would be a point in Sophia doing that. Maybe she would figure out another way to torture him. But it doesn't seem like that would be a good use of her energy to try to
Get him again.
have him keep seeing a reality that he, that he says, I don't believe in. And I don't think that this is how it's going to happen. But for me, the easiest way to realize that that like Fromville is the real reality is that nobody ever has had a dream that when you look at closely makes complete sense, that you can see how it began. Like dreams start in random places. They don't like, and yes, I know that like Fromville seems kind of batshit, kind of like a dream, but there are rules. It's just, they're really shitty rules. There's really terrible things that can happen, but it is rule based, versus like dreams are all over the place.
If you think of like, if you were going, like, yes, there are rules, but it's so out of the normal of what you experience in reality that the only explanation could be like, it's a dream. Like, I could see that's how people rationalize it being a dream, is that this is so crazy, this is so weird. There's rules, but there's a weird thing that happens where if I try to drive straight, I always come back to Fromville. So that seems something that just could never happen in reality. So I think it would be very easy for people to rationalize that they are in a dream, even though you could be like, I remember everything from being my childhood to my kid years to my adult years before it led me to Fromville, and now I'm in Fromville. You could trace that whole path back, but if you are telling yourself you're in a dream, you could just be thinking, I have all these memories that I know of, but I'm in this dream. You think about, you don't remember that stuff when you wake up from the dream. So like if you think that you're inside the dream, you might be like, oh, I can have all these memories that make sense, that I existed and had this life because I'm experiencing. I don't know, I could
but
see.
Like I can't remember what they're called, but dreams where you realize you're dreaming, lucid dreaming, and you realize you're dreaming and you can kind of take control of it, and so you can look at it and realize, oh, this is a dream, because dreams to me, like, they really, really, really don't make sense. It's beyond just like Fromville doesn't make sense, but it does have rules. Like the road thing is always the road thing versus dreams. There's like jump cuts from one part to another part, like in a movie, where there's like gaps that are missing and characters change. At one point you're doing this whole thing with your brother, and then later in it turns out that it's Pierce Brosnan, and Pierce Brosnan is your brother, and it's like, but that's not how it started. It's like it's all over the place. It's like a story being told by a kid, where they're just like, oh no, but okay, what about this?
Yeah, you are Pierce Brosnan's brother.
Yeah, so it's like when you look at them, it's not just that they don't follow the rules of our world. It's that they legitimately are kind of crazy. So I hope so, but I worry, because I feel like a big thing that they're setting up is that it's all repeating itself, and that could be part of that like horrible thing that's going to happen, because we know the last two episodes are going to be crazy. There's going to be some terrible things to happen, and we have to get ready for losses. At least one major loss, if not many, since this is the second to last season.
Yeah, I do think we're going to lose a lot of people this season. Like, I think the first two seasons didn't feel heavy with loss. Yeah, we had a couple losses. We lost Tilly, who was barely a character at that point. We lost Sarah's brother, Kenny's mom and dad. We both lost. And then we lost Jim. And honestly, this season, we haven't lost anybody, because Jim died last season.
Roger, we lost, but he was.
We did lose Roger.
You can argue he's a red shirt, you know?
Yes,
he's been present, but I do think there's an argument for him being a red shirt.
When Marielle asked Chrissy, did you know him? Yeah, every time we talked about the garden, I was like...
Yeah, that's...
And for me, I was wondering if that happened maybe in season 1. I don't even know if Roger was in season 1.
Or if they had to make something up about him.
Right, because I don't remember seeing him in seasons 2 or 3. At least he wasn't a focal point.
Yeah.
And so I don't remember him in season 1, and I don't think that Christy it feels weird. It's like, oh, he liked gardening. He liked this. He was... It reminds me of Severance when the therapist is talking about their outies. Your outie likes this.
Yes.
He likes gardening. He was great at hugs. Just stupid stuff.
Yeah. The last thing I kind of wanted to mention, I had an interesting connection that came about. So as you know, I'm going to Comic-Con soon. That's happening next month. And I think it was 2 years ago, we went to a panel about horror and or LGBTQ, like queerness in horror, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And thinking about, Fatima this episode and how she is like struggling for some level of bodily autonomy while going through something terrible, it very much kind of reminded me of that. And the fact that I don't think a lot of people that aren't in the, that don't deal with queer culture may not realize the connection that people have with, that queer people have with horror. Obviously not all of them, but many of them, that there's this interesting association. And I think that, I think it has strong female leads. It has good queer representation. And then the interesting thing is why this stuff oftentimes connects with that community, between the idea of feeling, I think that this one, the horror of this, of feeling like you are an outsider that's being hunted. I think that, unfortunately, that a lot of people in those communities feel like outsiders and feel like they are, that much of the world is against them.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's, not all horror has this, but a lot of horror has some body horror aspects, where it's you don't always, I think kind of Fatima is going through a thing where it's her, it feels like her body is betraying her.
Yeah.
Who she sees herself as versus what is happening to her body is something that many people in that community empathize with. And it's interesting. And I just kind of thought of that connection. And I think that this show has really good representation in it.
Yeah, I think it does. I hadn't thought about that. That wasn't present in my mind. I do understand and know that queer culture does, latch on to horror and enjoys horror because it is, they can connect to it. But I never thought about it in this show, even though we have had representation. It has just never connected in my brain. But you are right. It does it well.
And I think part of what makes it not necessarily seem too obvious is the people that use terms like woke. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think that this show would seem extremely woke because it's not putting it in your face, there aren't a bunch of kisses between, it's not really showing the romance between characters of the same sex.
Sure.
So it's it's present, but it's not in your face present.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the show has good representation across the board in terms of religions as well. There are people that seem agnostic, possibly atheistic, alongside people that are, very religious.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of feels like it has the whole spectrum of people, and it doesn't feel like it is trying to push an agenda. It's just
Yeah.
like, this is the type of mix of people that you might see,
Right.
you know?
There's no
And
rhyme or reason to who it is.
yeah, it feels organic.
Yeah. I do have one question.
Okay.
I think there may have been a mistake in this episode. And I want to know
Interesting.
your thoughts because it was a big plot point before.
Okay.
Victor, as he is talking to Ethan, says when everybody was killed, that's the first time he saw the boy in white.
Okay.
That's not true, though, because Victor saw the boy in white because what's his name was talking to the boy in white. Christopher was talking to the boy in white.
Christopher was talking to the boy in white.
So Christopher, originally Victor remembered it as Christopher talking to the puppet, and then he re-remembered it.
Jasper,
Jasper, and then he re-remembered Christopher was talking to the boy in white. And so I know the boy in white does show up when Victor was all alone, but he did see him one time before that. And I don't know if it...
Did he say... I don't remember the line. Did he say that was the first time he saw him, or that's the first time he talked to him? Because, like, maybe he saw him with Christopher, and if the line was like, that was the first time he talked to me, or I talked, you know? Because that could be the first.
You're right. He could have said it that way. I can't remember the exact phrasing because when I watched it and when I did my second watch, I thought it both times, but he might not have said the first time he talked to me. He might have said the first time he came to me. Now that I'm thinking about it, it could have said that. And then that would make sense because he didn't come to Christopher, or he was talking to Christopher and then he came to Victor. So that could make sense. Okay, that makes me feel better because I kept thinking about it and I just wasn't sure.
When they were talking about, like, the boy in white, and I did know that, like, the truck that they were in was a peach truck, and it, to me, that does kind of bring home the idea of this almost being a game, and that they do, it does kind of feel like they give them some things to be able to play the game. You know, like, there are chickens, there were peaches, you know, like, it doesn't seem like the entire goal is just to wipe everybody out instantly, because it seems like once Victor is there by himself, it feels like it should be pretty easy to pick off that last one. But instead, it almost feels like, okay, these are the rules for the beginning, you know, and it's like that Victor type kid who maybe we're setting that up to be the Ethan type kid, needs to be able to have resources to live until the next batch comes in.
So he can pass down knowledge to them, and
it does make it seem like the goal isn't just to, like, destroy, you know, that
it's to mess with.
Yeah.
That does make sense because even Victor says before we had animals here, it was harder to survive. I would have to eat bugs and plants and the peaches in the truck because there was nothing else. And then the animals came. So why did the animals come? How did the animals come? And with the bringing of those animals, they're sustaining the people from Fromville. So yeah, it does feel like they want them to live. They want them to keep going. The talismans in general. If something created these monsters to do these things, and yet they also created some object that was able to prevent them from coming in. And I'm sure we'll find out that we might see somebody like the boy in white created it. And that's the other thing. There does seem like there could be the man in yellow who is a participant and not the creator, or the boy in white could be the creator and trying to push things in certain directions, knowing the outcomes of the games, but wanting ultimately to win. It does feel like there's two forces at work in Fromville.
Yeah.
And you know what's annoying? This is the last thing that's annoying.
Okay.
I'm not going to know for 2 more weeks. Yeah, any of them, because I'm going to be gone in South Africa and I have no service. It's crazy.
Yeah. Ooh.
I was very disappointed in the last 2 episodes because they were very slow. And now I have 2 more episodes and I'm not going to be here and it's going to be upsetting and I want to know and I'm going to have to wait. Not you guys. You guys are all going to love it and I hope you enjoy it.